Okay, so I decided to do a review of this nice book, as you can see on the screen. The reason I decided to do a review of this book is because a lot of you, a number of times, are always looking for signaling messages and the content of signaling messages. For example, what happens when a message is coming from the core network towards the RAN side? What happens when a handover is happening and then the messages are coming from the RAN side? Or during paging, when the messages are coming in, what are the contents of those messages, so on and so forth. So in case if you are always interested in signaling messages and contents, this book is one of nice books in the market which will give you to the point information when it comes to those types of questions. The book is written by two authors, Ralph and Karsten, and both of them work in Tektronix Communication in Berlin. So as you can see, both of the authors work in the industry, so the information in this book is to the point. Now, having said that, this book can be used by a lot of you who are in the field and practicing. Before we go into the detail and I talk about what are the contents and so on and so forth, let's talk about the story. So what's the story in this book? The story is basically divided into 4 chapters. Chapter 1 basically starts with the architecture of LTE, so that in case if you have not too much understanding on the overview architecture, it talks about the details of the nodes and the security procedure and signaling little bit in detail. So that's another advantage when it comes to this specific book. It just starts with an overview, so that if you don't know a lot more information, you can get overview starting with chapter 1. After that, chapter number 2 dives right into the signaling interaction between core network and RAN side, and during that it covers extensively what type of signaling exchange and messages take place between core network and RAN side. So that is given in detail. Now, the interesting thing which I like specifically about this book is it does not only show or talk about the messages, but actually the contents of those messages as well. Because usually in order to see the contents of the messages, you usually have to go through decoding of those messages, use certain devices or can catch information over the air and then decode using tools. But then this book automatically contains those messages decoded, and what are the contents usually will come when a message will arrive. So that is gold information if you would like to know right away detail. Having said that, so signaling is not only between core network towards the RAN side. If we look at the overall architecture, the signaling will take place between E node B as well as the UE as well. So chapter number 3 in the story talks about the signaling between RAN side or air interface. That's a short to the point chapter, and then that again talks about messages and gives the details. Now, final climax chapter or chapter number 4 is about, okay, now you know all the information including the architecture, you know the information about the signaling in the core and RAN side, and you know about signaling between RAN side or the wireless side. So now the topic comes chapter number 4, which is about KPI measurements for radio network optimization. So this chapter starts with a specific introduction about how do you monitor the network. So this chapter is focused on measurements and then about optimization. It starts with how do you measure the network, and then what are the ways to monitor the network. Having said that, then it talks about load indication KPIs, what KPIs are going to indicate load on the network, so on and so forth. And then there is a specific section on layer 2 measurements, what are physical measurements which are being done into the network, and radio interface tester measurements, and then control plane performance, counter and delay measurements, and user plane KPIs. Now that's all what is discussed specifically in this chapter. Now, having said that, I went through those particular contents quite quickly, but the idea is the last chapter, chapter number 4, is very interesting for those who work specifically in analysis or dissecting or reading different messages, what happens in a certain message, so on and so forth. Or dissecting, that particular chapter will be very much helpful because it talks to the point and gives information in case if you're doing troubleshooting, of what particular steps you have to take and what measurements you may need to look into when you're trying to do troubleshooting. So you have already talked about signaling in the chapter 3 and 2, and then here it's just using that information in order to talk more about optimization and talking about measurements and then how you are going to have network optimization. Now, having said that, the book Let's talk about optimization. If you are a practitioner, let me repeat, if you are a practitioner in the field, meaning you are a system engineer or you work in an area where you do a lot of dissecting of different messages and try to troubleshoot the network, this book will be pretty good benefit for you, or it will serve as a good book on your shelf in your personal collection. In case if you don't like to have books of your own, you can always get it from library in case if you need it. And then in case if you're looking to get an information altogether or starting to learn about the technology and optimization, this book will give you an information, but I would say it will not be the right book to start with, because it goes into a lot more practicalities. So those who are starting with, let's say, getting introduced, that book may not be the exact right, but because it's advanced from that perspective of measurements and optimization and troubleshooting. For practitioners who are working in the field, this book is a good addition to their collection. In case also if you are looking to understand about optimization and optimization framework, one thing which you need to understand specifically is when it comes to optimization framework, this book will talk about the practicalities and troubleshooting. So may not be the exactly right book for you to start understanding the overall framework and how different KPIs are measured and monitored. It will talk about some of the information, but that's not really the exact book. However, it's a good book when it comes to practitioners or people who are working directly into the field. I would give 5 by 5 stars. For those who have information and they are trying to do a transition, I would give 4.5 out of 5 star. Final point, great job done by Ralph and Carlston. Good job. You did a good job to the LTE community by writing this book, and the book is available on Amazon. You can read the reviews as well, and it should be available in your public libraries as well. So that's it about this book. Thank you very much for watching this. Talk to you later. Bye.